What is up, RotoGrinders? We are early as far. Typically, you guys get the notification, you hit the like button, you subscribe, you get the notification that Blender's coming on for RotoGrinders today at 11 o'clock in the a.m. on the East Coast. But it's early baseball. We have Getaway Day baseball, split slates, 7-gamer in the morning, 5-gamer later on tonight. So double duty over here. Myself and Blender, we're going to be breaking down today's 7-gamer, a plethora. A lot of good arms. A lot of good arms here, and a very, very clear, I think. What was that, Blender? What are we talking about? We have a pretty good you don't like the arms today? What do you want?
I mean, they're fine.
Really good.
The arms are fine. They're like some Coen Brothers movies. Some of them are good, and some of them are fine.
Most of the Coen Brothers are movies are good. Taj Bradley is like the Fargo of this slate. He's
Freddie Peralta could be the Barton Fink.
Barton. He had to go with the deep cut of Barton Fink. He couldn't go like No Country for Old Men. If you guys couldn't tell, we were talking movies pre-show. We might be talking movies a little bit later on as well when it comes to our power rankings. Another slate, Blender, where we're going to have be in the dark a little bit as far as lineups, right? Maybe crunch time we'll get the 210 lineups, but Atlanta plays Milwaukee at 210, Kansas City plays Chicago at 210. Some players, as far as those that have been traded, might be en route or not yet have been cleared, right? We did have Paul DeYoung, who was in Chicago facing Kansas City. He was traded to Kansas City, so maybe he's available to play versus old team. An instant revenge game. We might get that. We'll see. Baltimore did drop their lineup. They did add several pieces. Eloy Jimenez not in it. Double catcher today. No, not double catcher. There's no Adley Rutschman. Adley's sitting out. His nose was all banged up. I don't know if you saw the picture of his nose. Like he had a bloody up nose, and he stuck around because no, that was McCann. I'm getting those guys confused. McCann has a nose, and despite that, he's actually going to be playing baseball today. Baltimore has almost a 6 total, Blender. They are facing Paulo Espino, who does not appear to be good. Never really was good. But that's who Toronto's rolling out today. They traded Kikuchi. It's not great shakes these days in Toronto. The Marlins have less than a 3 total, less than 3. I bet like the first 5 stuff sometimes, Blender. I don't know if you're in those streets ever, but that's like a lot of teams. That's like even money, 3 runs in the first 5. They're saying they're not even going to score 3 the entire game because Taj Bradley is awesome. And I don't know if you're sitting down, Blender. The Marlins are terrible, and they got worse because they made some more trades. Xavier Edwards. Here's our starting lineup. Xavier Edwards, Jake Berger, Stowers, Jonah Bride, of course, cleanup hitter, Jonah Bride, Jesus Sanchez, Emmanuel Rivera, Nick Gordon, Vidal Burhan. That's a revenge game for him. And Ali Sanchez. It is.
Most of their lineup are people that either are creative players. I don't know who Ali Sanchez is, but I mean, probably one step removed from Ali G. Right, we could talk about Sacha Baron Cohen movies next. But like most of their lineup are people that normally bet 9th for whatever teams they used to play on. Right?
Yeah.
And it's a whole lineup full of them, other than maybe like Jake Berger, maybe.
He's a professional hitter. Yeah.
I mean, some of these guys used to play for they're low-level professionals. They're like it's. You went to the doctor, and it's like their nurse practitioner is in the office, and like they're taking calls, and it's like I'd rather see someone with like an actual medical degree, but I mean they're fine.
So Ali Sanchez is like 27 years old, not a prospect, but
so it's not Ali G. This isn't Sacha Baron Cohen dressed up as a Marlin playing catcher today.
Did you prefer Ali G or Borat? Did you have a preference amongst those two? And who's
I actually never thought Ali G was very good.
Really? I thought. Oh, I figure with your comedic background, you'd appreciate Ali G. All right.
No. I mean, I appreciate Tracy Ullman also, but I don't know the last time I laughed, cracked a smile to anything that Tracy Ullman has ever done. I respect her skill level, but it's just not funny.
For me, the most famous thing Tracy Ullman ever did is there was a Tracy Ullman show many years ago. And you probably know this, in the middle of the show, they would have like 30-second, like 1-minute snippets of The Simpsons. That's where The Simpsons were born.
Where The Simpsons started from.
On the Tracy Ullman show.
That was the best part of the Tracy Ullman show, getting the little old school, Simpsons thing before they had their own
You would
show.
tune in and I was too young to get the jokes anyway, so maybe it was funny. I just didn't realize it because I was
It
a
wasn't.
dopey
It
kid.
wasn't Dean. It was 9:30 at night. It was on after whatever, Married with Children or America's Most Wanted or so whatever the original Fox lineup was.
What
Herman's
lead-in is
Head.
that? America's One. It scares the audience. And now here's something to laugh at. That'd be a terrible lead-in. There's not a Venn diagram. America's Most Wanted
desperate
viewers
to get shows on that. It was like 1987 or something. They were just desperate for anything that to even air at that time.
We got let's see, we got the Baltimore lineup that just came in. We have the Yankees. Speaking of the Marlins, Jazz banging out a couple homers these days. Basically every single game he plays in. He banged out 2 yesterday. He's in the confirmed lineup for New York. Day game after night game, some players will get rested, more so with catchers. Can we come up with a real baseball team, like an actual legitimate lineup if we combined all the teams that are stationed in Florida, Marlins and Tampa, because they're facing each other, and like how many professional baseball players are in that game? It's Tampa's, obviously they got rid of some pieces. They did have Christopher Morel. Yadi Diaz is still around. Brandon Lau has been he's been terrible. It's the teams in Florida are not good. It's just kind of the point I'm making, Blender. No one up there just yet. We should be getting it soon though, because that is the first game we get, 12-10. So we should be getting Tampa soon enough. Again, Baltimore has a team total close to 6. I think they're the clear and obvious best offense. Kansas City once again is a team total above 5, facing Drew Thorpe, locked in for 9, a rough bullpen, good hitting environment. Chris Sale is throwing baseballs today against Freddie Peralta. Should be a pitcher's duel theoretically. And I think Sale and Taj Bradley are the ideal pitching pairing. If salary wasn't a thing, if ownership wasn't a thing, that's probably where you want to be. What is your assessment? What is your overview as far as the slate? What are we looking at?
The pitchers that in the bat, you got. Taj Bradley at 9,500 is the highest raw point pitcher on the slate. Really, there's 4 pitchers that I would play. You got Taj Bradley, Freddie Peralta at 9K against Atlanta, Chris Sale 10.5 against Milwaukee, Pablo Lopez 8,700 against the Mets. Those are the only 4 pitchers that have a 6.5 strikeout prop. Also, so I care more about strikeouts and pitch count more than anything. Nestor Cortez, I guess you could play against Philly, but
a little scary.
I have a little bit more interested in Philadelphia than I do Cortez. And can you play? You can play any pitcher against the White Sox. So Singer against the White Sox, I think it's fine. I'm not going to do it, but feel free. Let the buyer beware on Brady Singer. And maybe Grayson Rodriguez against the Blue Jays. I'm not going to do it, but I don't think you're nuts. But I really don't see I don't see a cheap pitcher. Like if you want to play Rodri Munoz against the Tampa Bay Rays, I guess that's not crazy, right? Just matchup wise, but we're not talking about good pitchers here. So, other than that, the projection on Bradley, Peralta, and Sale, and even Lopez, I guess, if you want to go down over there in the bat, is just so far ahead all the other pitchers. Like Bradley's at 22, Sale's at 20, Peralta's at 19.5, and then if you're going down any further, if you're going down to the Christian Sanchez's and the Severinos and stuff like that, that's like 6 points below everything else. So I'm not giving up that many points projection-wise out of my pitching slots, especially on a slate where, I don't know, the hitting is there are spots to play hitting to get different enough that I don't mind eating the chocolate pitcher today.
Chris Sale, biggest K rate, 32.7%, also the lowest Sierra at 2.66, but like Taj Bradley, 30% strikeouts, and the matchup against Miami in the ballpark as well might make him just as good, if not better, like you're talking about as far as, and like the 1-2 punch of Bradley Sale is certainly intriguing, but that's also going to be pretty popular. Those are the 2 most popular pitchers we're seeing right now as far as projections, 36% for Bradley, Sale 33% on DK, Peralta at 30. I have Bradley and Sale. I don't want to say well ahead, but definitively ahead. And if like ownership's basically the same, the only argument for me for Peralta would be like, variance and ownership, and kind of surprising that Peralta is projected similar, 30% and Sale at 33, Bradley at 36. I feel like the gap should be greater. This stuff could change.
Atlanta's strikeout rate is quite high.
Well, for starters, I don't think Peralta is as good as Bradley and Sale.
I agree with you there, but I mean,
in the ballpark,
this is a good strikeout matchup. Whether or not, I mean, Atlanta only has an implied run total of 3.85, so like, doesn't scare me or anything like that. But I mean, but I would agree with you if everyone was equal ownership wise. Sale Bradley is the highest projected combo, so like that's what I would do. Of course, you're paying $20K total for it. I mean, you'll be able to fit in some bats or whatever. I mean, I don't think price matters all that much on this slate. They're cheap guys in every lineup. But yes, I would go with Sale Bradley. But I think Peralta is, if Bradley and Sale are ones, Peralta's a 1A. And Pablo Lopez at 8,700 against the Mets is like a solid 1B.
He is the pivot, right? Well, Lopez, we're seeing 19%. Again, he's a really good pitcher right there as far as skill level is with Bradley. Sale's the best pitcher, best numbers on the slate. Singer is the best matchup against the White Sox, so maybe Bradley about the best matchup because whatever is left of that Marlins team, it is decimated. The ballpark's great. The team total is less than 3. At least Chicago's sitting in a good hitting environment. Rodri Munoz, did you mention him in passing? It's small sample stuff, but good Lord, man. The guy's got a ISO over 400 versus lefties. And I was just kind of curious about his splits. And there's some, it's only 30 innings or so we're talking about on the season, and it gets even smaller. Was it 30 innings? I'm trying to see what it was. I think it was 30 innings versus lefties, I want to say. And he's given up 14 homers, over 4 per 9, which is insanity. And he's throwing half his games in Miami. Now, that has to come down, theoretically, right? Otherwise, he would get kicked out of the league really quickly. But he makes a perfect Marlin for sure. Just pretty horrendous. We just got the Mets lineup, by the way. Lindor, Nemo, JD Martinez, Alonso, McNeil, Vientos, Iglesias, Alvarez, Taylor. So I think that's standard, right? I don't think we're missing anything goofy there. Brandon says this in chat, by the way. What's up, chat? Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications, do all those things. Let's keep the lights on here at RG. He said we may not get a Tampa lineup. They never released one last night. Nobody saw it until the game started in the live box score. How is that possible? I think that was like a 6 o'clock game, so I don't think I was paying attention to it. I think. What? There has to be one posted in the stadium, on the board.
The umpires get a little card. The umpires get a lineup. So
yeah, there's an official lineup card.
Right.
How is it like a secret? I don't understand. That's very strange.
But that's what they should do that to make our lives even more like NBA.
Yes, because everybody
we just see who's batting first. Well, we'll see when they come up. Who's batting 8th? I don't know. We'll see in the 3rd inning.
Everything is a big secret.
The right batters and the right stacks. Let's make it a little bit more variance. Like make it more luck driven.
We had Jesse Winker and Bader projected for the Mets, and Taylor and Iglesias are in there for what it's worth. So a little bit different. Oh, Alan in chat. My guy Alan says last night, I don't know if you know this, Blender. This is pretty awesome. A 2-1-1-1-1-1 won the $50,000 last night on DK. And it wasn't me, for the record. I didn't win 50K. But those are my people for sure.
But I mean, do people realize that lineup construction is the most likely to be optimal?
Well, it's also the hardest to get. The optimal
lineup is going to be. Really, Dean? Really? It's the most likely to be. The key word there is optimal. The thing is that most of the time you don't need the optimal lineup in order to win a GPP. Typically, the optimal lineup is like 60 points higher than the winning lineup in the GPP. And it's the amount of combinations that are available of that type of lineup is in the I mean,
Millions?
there's no
Millions?
number. There's no number. I can't even describe the number of how many combinations.
So wait, you're saying if you have 150 lineups, you don't cover all the bases? I
don't
told,
think you
Twitter
cover
told
all
me.
the multiple trillions times trillions of possible 1-1-1-1-1-1 lineups with two pitchers that you could make on an entire slate. So yeah, good luck figuring out which lineup of the 1-1-1-1-1-1 in that entire bucket is going to be not only wins the GPP, but is also so you win a GPP by 60 points. So the reason why you stack is because you don't need to be optimal, and the players are correlated so much that it's simpler to get to, right? So, but there are plenty of people, hey, we see in every sport, we see in NFL. It's like, oh, someone played a naked quarterback and 3 wide receivers from one team and 2 tight ends from someone from the Arena League and some guy off the street on defense, like some weird something that doesn't make any sense. It's like, yeah, there's 230,000 lineups in the Millie Maker. There are plenty of people that are banging their head against the keyboard. Someone's the group of monkeys. Remember that the monkeys could create, Beethoven or something if you give them enough chance, banging their head against the keyboards, right? So it's the same type of thing. So like,
experiment, but
yeah, great. The 1-1-1. Well, yeah, okay, fine. Try it and don't come back to me crying when you've lost like your entire bankroll in the process.
Blender, you think, say like 10 games slate or more in the history of all the MLB DFS slates that have happened, has anybody ever legitimately hit the optimal on like a 10 or 11 game slate?
Probably not.
It's. I mean, I don't want to say it's impossible, but like you said, it's like
it's quite possible on 10 plus game slates on DraftKings, for large field GPPs or whatever, that in the history of MLB DFS. I'm not sure if anyone's hit the that most of the time the optimal lineup is like 40, 50 points higher than you'll go there's some,
and it's also like 5K on the table probably too. Like nobody's
right. No, yeah, you'll get ones like that. Yeah, well, you'll leave 11K on the table, and there's a whole bunch of $3,200 hitters, and the pitching combination is like an $8,700 guy and a $6,200 guy. And it's 3 guys from one team that no one play. I mean, like it's all over the place. You don't need the optimal line.
We just got the Blue Jays lineup. Loper Fito's in it. He was the key piece in the Kikuchi trade. He's batting second. Springer, Loper Fito, Vladdy, Horwitz, Clement, Varsho, Schneider, Barger, and Servin. Oof. Good Lord. Obviously no Bichette. Yeah. Did you see Toronto traded for Billy Wagner's kid? They can't help themselves. They just stockpile the children of players that used to be really, really good. Biggio, Bichette, what? It's their thing.
Okay, yeah.
And once that Jeff Conan's kid.
Okay, so you had 2 previously, now 3. Okay.
No. Okay, Conine, they had Jeff Conan's kid. Most people don't know that. Kevin Biggio, he's not there anymore, but they did. By the way, pretty cool the other day. Kevin Biggio hit a homer in Houston with his dad in attendance. It's pretty sweet. But yeah, Vladdy, right? Bichette, and now Wagner. That's 5. There's probably one I'm missing too. I'm not really sure. All right. Blender, did you get that note? Am I coming off a little bit?
I got it.
Okay, good to go. All right. Wasn't sure if that was on my end or on your end. Back to the slate. Yeah, so we're, I guess, maybe we're not going to get a Tampa. I mean, it's still an hour and 20 minutes or so, but you would think Tampa would hook us up at some point, but maybe. Did they even need a lineup against this Marlins team? I don't know. They might even intentionally bat out of order for all we know. We have Minnesota. We have the Mets. Are both Lewis and Buxton are in there, which sometimes you might not get that because they're both pretty fragile. Day game after a night game that they sometimes can't play. But they are both in there for Minnesota. We're probably not going to get Atlanta, Milwaukee, KC, Chicago, Texas, St. Louis. St. Louis is starting Michael McGreevy, who is like 22nd in their prospect list. They wanted to go to a 6-man rotation. I think that's the reason why they called him up. They wanted to give the rest of their pitchers a breather, like an extra day. But he doesn't seem to be very good for the record. So certainly Texas 4.5 team total. Beyond as far as the pitchers, again, and there's a lot of cheap hitters out there too. So I'm just going to prioritize arms. I know it's super chalky and it's super. You want to call me a donkey or not? Arms are more predictive than bats. I'm much happier to get goofier, a little bit different with my bats as opposed to my arms. Give me Sale, give me Bradley, and come get me because you can roster Lopez if you want, Peralta as well. No issues with Singer. Cortez, I guess is fine if you're running 150. I'm not doing that. I don't really want to pick on Philly necessarily. What is weather edge in Philly? Because I know Baltimore. Yes, it was scalding yesterday. It's still hot there. 87 degrees, 10 miles per hour, basically the dead center, right center a little bit. 104 previous games, 29% bump in homers, 19% bump in runs. Do like that hitting environment today.
Well, the Phillies have a 4.9 implied run total. That's kind of like, I guess Cortez had strikeout upside, but I don't know. I mean, he's 7,500. I mean, it's more for the price. I mean, he can strike out 5 or 6. Just hopefully he doesn't give up enough runs that he ends up with like no points.
He's a fly ball guy and in a fly ball environment facing some home run hitters. Philly can certainly bang out 3 on him. It wouldn't shock us. You mentioned G-Rod. G-Rod's fine, but for me, he's like my 5th or 6th or 7th lineup. He's not my 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. Perfectly fine with him in tournaments. But anything else that needs to be covered as far as pitchers, trying to see.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So you're going to be kind of chalky at pitchers as well, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yeah, I think there's more wider variety of stacks that I'm willing to play than pitchers. Obviously, playing 3 lineups, like I gotta condense down. I mean, that's what I said before. It's like Bradley, Peralta, Lopez, Sale. That's all I need. That's all I need. Like I'm going to be playing 3 different stacks, little combinations, and that's it. So there's no need for me to go any further down. And even from price, like I was putting together lineups with Bradley and Sale, and still having no problem.
Yeah,
because that every team has at least one like $2,500 player. Or you could like stack 2 people from a team, and one of them is like 2,200 or something. Like, you'll be able to find, as long as you're not. I'm not going to be playing those types of guys as one-offs, but you can figure out a way. You may not be able to get the best 5 players from the Royals or the Orioles or something like that, but you can get 3 or 4 of them plus a cheapie.
You have like Austin Hayes is 2.9 batting second, possibly some pinch stuff, but probably not. You never really know facing the righty. A slew of guys behind him, like the Philadelphia stack outside, like the Schwarber, Harper, Bauman are pretty expensive. Castellanos in the middle. Hayes is cheap. Wilson, Stubbs, no JT Realmuto. Day game after a night game. All the Marlins are cheap, with the exception of even Edwards is pretty cheap at 3.8. The most expensive Marlin is Xavier Edwards. Shout out to him for hitting the cycle. That was spectacular. That was incredible stuff. An infield single to get the cycle replacement. Nuts. Absolutely wild. Larnach's pretty cheap leading off at 3.7. I'm just looking. Loperfido batting second, 3K. Mullins is 3.6. This was mentioned in Cheese's article, and it's kind of a concern I have as well. I think Baltimore is going to be kind of annoying going forward with pinch hit stuff. Now, I don't know if Eloy Jimenez is available, but they have more bats. They've added some depth, which makes like Mullins and Jackson Holiday, who they just called up, possibly vulnerable. McCann possibly vulnerable to like an Adley Rutschman pitch hit if the situation calls for it. If they're up like 9-2 in the 7th, he'll just play all 9 and they'll give Adley the full day off. Jackson Holiday wasn't great in his cup of coffee earlier this year, but still a ridiculous amount of talent. Buried in the 8 hole, but still 3K. No issue with that. Yeah, there's a lot of cheap stuff is the point. It's not hard to make, double barrel lineups with respectable offenses as well. Blender, anything else, or shall we talk about our tiers?
Let's talk about tiers.
All right. Yeah, we threw this together. I'm kind of spoiled, and you trained me like one of Pavlov's dogs. I just kind of assume that whenever we do a show together, you're going to have the tiers good to go. This isn't me throwing shade, but that's just like, and we hit it. Like, yeah, maybe
you can throw shade all you want, Dean. Throw as much as you want.
No, I'm not. I'm saying
hot outside. I don't mind sitting in the shade.
Life is about expectations, and now I'm at the point where I just assume you're going to do it, which is not fair.
I still could have, Dean. I still could have. I mean, I had like 10 minutes to put something together, and I almost did, But you came up with an idea. You already did it, so don't look at me. We'll put it to good use. It's not even August yet. There's still 2 months of baseball. And remember, last week we were ranking numbers, for crying out loud. So I mean, we'll have plenty of time for whatever ideas that I come up with that we could use on this.
One of my favorite podcasts, I listen to the Rewatchables. They talk about movies and like they just kind of break it down from all different fun angles. Bill Simmons podcast. I thoroughly enjoy it. If you like movies. What's it called, Dean? The Rewatchables. Are you aware of this or no? It's spectacular. Rewatchables, yeah.
Okay, so they talk about shows that are good enough to rewatch.
Well, like it's basically like a classic movie. You know, they rewatch it. You know, like before they go on the podcast. But it's probably these movies they've loved.
But to us who have never seen that movie, shouldn't they just be watchable? Shouldn't it be the watchable?
Well, okay, so this week's episode was Pulp Fiction, and you probably watched Pulp Fiction. I'm going to assume that you have watched Pulp Fiction. So I listened to that podcast.
But I mean, would I rewatch it? Is it good enough to rewatch? I don't know. I don't know if it's good. It's definitely watchable, but is it rewatchable?
Well, you tell me.
I get the feeling that they haven't really ironed out what the meaning of their title is.
No, I think it's pretty clear. I feel like
they're rewatching, so they find it rewatchable. But if you haven't seen them, so do you skip over the episodes of the movies that you haven't seen because those are the watchable episodes?
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because no, I'll you know what I'll do is I'll see that the pod is out and I'm like, oh, I've never heard of this movie, but at this point I trust their judgment. I haven't seen it. So I will seek it out and then I'll watch it.
If they have an episode about it, they've seen it at least twice. So you should consider it at least once.
So
even though Dean, you may watch it once and go, I thought that was a good movie, but I'd never watch it again. And then it'd be like, well, it's actually not a rewatchable movie.
Well, there are some movies that you never want to. You like that. That's another list of like, this is a great movie. I love this movie. I never want to see it again.
So that technically
Requiem for a Dream might be
type
one
of podcast. That would be the unwatchables. And that would also have the same flaw that you're talking about movies that you've seen that aren't worth watching.
Take it up with Bill Simmons.
It doesn't even. It's like dividing by zero. Like that doesn't even exist as a.
We did get the Rays lineup, by the way. Diaz, Lowe, Christopher Morel. God, I don't know which one is Josh Lowe, Caballero, Palacios, DeLuca, Walls, and Jackson is doing the catching. So Tampa Bay did give us their lineup in a decent amount of time. I saw that there was a No Way Out. Duncan saying No Way Out. I've never heard of No Way Out. It's a Kevin Costner movie that somehow just kind of gets lost in history. And then I sought it out. Like, oh, let me go ahead and watch this before I listen to the podcast. It was really, really good, especially when you grade on the fact it was like a 1990 movie or so. I don't want to give anything away.
Are you going to watch it? When is the next time you're going to watch it?
You know what? Give or take 15 years. But
okay,
it's a movie that nobody's seen.
Of how rewatchable the movie is. So if you watch it again in the next 15 years, then that would be considered a rewatchable movie. Okay.
So chat. I listened to a podcast on Pulp Fiction. 4.5 hours on Pulp Fiction. It's a lot going on.
Longer than the movie.
It is longer than the movie. Yes.
You could watch Pulp Fiction twice.
No. Close, but no. Close. It's like 2.5 hours, right? But yeah. So Tarantino movies. I power ranked Tarantino movies, and this is depending on when you ask me, this would change. It's probably already changed when I already made this list. But at that exact moment, I just think Pulp Fiction's the chalk. You got to put Pulp Fiction up top, just because, you know, it's kind of what kickstarted everything else. It started Tarantino's ridiculous run. And again, this is fluid, but Inglourious Basterds #2. All these movies are incredible, spectacular. Django Unchained third. Reservoir Dogs. People are gonna be upset about that. Why is Kill Bill not on the board? Well, you can't rank everything. The one thing I can say, this is one thing I feel confident about. His quote-unquote worst movie, Death Proof. That's his worst movie. So Death Proof is at the bottom. What? You've never seen it?
I've never seen a lot of these movies.
Oh, Blender. Jeez. Well, stop. Could you stop watching wrestling for one night and fire up a Tarantino marathon? Like, for real. You've never seen Inglourious Basterds? Or Django?
No. Oh. I've seen
Reservoir Dogs. Do you have the
Dog.
Netflix?
I've seen Reservoir Dogs. I've seen Kill Bill before. I've seen Pulp Fiction once. I've never rewatched Pulp Fiction. I've seen it once. I'll grade it. It was definitely watchable. Right.
Well,
maybe
by
not
definition,
rewatchable. I've only seen it once.
Chat, let me know if I. Well, Chunk is saying Death Proof is underrated, and that's fine. That might actually be true. But when compared against all the others unfairly, it's going to be outshined.
I've never even heard of the movie. I've never even heard of it.
It's what he did with Robert Rodriguez. They did like a kind of a throwback. It's like drive-in theater kind of movie. It's fine,
like
but like
sucks. That sounds like you're describing something that's like, oh, it's kind of like it's worth it if you're sitting in your car. Like that's
Jackie
not a good
Brown's
review.
great, not on the list. I'm just so upset. You're gonna be tilted the rest of the way because you've never seen. And the thing is, I'm telling you, and you don't trust my judgment, and like just go to the Rotten Tomatoes, go anywhere. People will tell you should be seeing these movies at some point.
People, dude, have you seen People?
I have seen People.
People are stupid.
Think of the stupidest person you know. Yeah. All right. So that's our tiers today, Blunder. Let's get going as far as ranking, throwing teams in buckets, or tiers, if you will. Marlins, Tampa, 7.5 total. Really, really paltry total. Tampa does have a 4.5 total. Less than three for the Marlins. Roddery Munoz taking on Taj Bradley. Do you want to make a case for the Marlins? Go ahead. I mean, they're super, super cheap. I guess maybe as a mini. I guess some leverage. What sort of angle are you going to take to get them out of Death Proof? I guess probably, you tell me. They're probably going to get bumped up to Reservoir Dogs for all those reasons.
The caveat to that with Taj Bradley is going to be 50% owned. So you can play the Marlins as a stack against them, is that they have a total under 3. It's not just about Taj Bradley failing. It's about the Miami Marlins being the top stack of the entire slate. So let's say Taj Bradley, quote, fails. He pitches 5 innings, gives up 6 runs, and whatever. He ends up with 2 points or something. Well, if the Marlins are the top scoring team, sure, that's great. But I mean, if the Royals come out and score 12 runs, doesn't matter how many runs the Marlins scored over Taj Bradley. So you have to think, is this situation good enough that the Marlins could end up being the top stack of the entire slate? And I don't think so. Bradley could not be the top pitcher. Bradley could only have 10 fantasy points. So they project so much lower than they're 10 points lower than even the middle of the pack teams on this slate. So I'm putting the Marlins on they're going to Death Proof. They are Death Proof.
I really don't want to argue for the Marlins, but I and I guess this is the other part of this conversation is we're talking stacks, right? We're talking full stacks. We're not talking minis necessarily. So I guess it's kind of a different conversation, but I think I'm okay with a mini Marlins stack, but probably not. They're not going to be my first lineup. How about the Rays? I mentioned before, especially the lefties. The lefties look awesome against Roddery Munoz. Munoz over 4 homers per 9 to lefties this season, which is that's just horrendous. That's batting practice, kind of, sort of, somewhat. But yeah, where do you have Tampa? Whatever's left of them as far as facing Roddery Munoz.
I mean, they're in the middle somewhere. I mean, I'm not enthralled about playing the Rays today. I think I'm much more likely to play Rays as one-offs, 2-mans, little. You play the lows, right? The Lows and the Lows and the Palacios, and then maybe probably not the Taylor Walls, but whatever. Yeah, I think I'm much more likely to play them. But I mean, do they go all the way down the list? I mean, Roddery Munoz is awful. So I guess put him with Django. They're in the middle. So just due to price, they have to be in the middle somewhere. They're not as low down. They're not a team I'm playing today. So it's I'm not going to be playing them.
I'm playing some.
If I need Brandon, if one of the Lows and the Lows and the Lows, whatever,
stack the Lows,
the Palacios and the Palacios, maybe as one-offs or whatever. But as a stack, I think they're fine. Middle of the road. I'm not playing them today as a stack.
Yankees are in Philadelphia. We mentioned the weather is really positive as far as weather edge. The dew point, I know you're a big dew guy. 73 dew point in Philly. It's got the fire emoji. We're expecting it to be hot. Weather Edge is expecting it to be a pretty good spot as far as hitting baseballs. Watched the game last night, similar weather, and was that Austin Hayes homer looked like he got a little bit lucky as far as weather, but he's batting second for Philly tonight. A bit of a cheapie again. If you're looking for some salary savers, Philly is loaded with them. Of course, the Yankees, they have Soto, they have Judge, they have Stanton, they have Jazz, former Marlins reuniting here. I guess they never crossed over, right? Stanton and Jazz didn't play together. I don't think. Could be wrong there. Glaber leading off is also going to be pretty popular at second base for cash games. Volpe got bumped up to the 6th spot as well. Where do you have the Yankees, Philadelphia, Christopher Sanchez taking on Nasty Nestor?
This total is much higher than I thought it would be with these two pitchers. I mean, I guess obviously both teams have good offenses, and they're playing in it's hot and humid, and the wind is slightly blowing out in Philly. I just think these teams may be a little overowned today for their cost. I mean, I'm looking at the bat stacks page, and they're fine. They're towards the top, but not at the top. I don't know. It just it does it seem like the type of slate where Nestor Cortez or Christopher Sanchez really get blown up. Sure, the bullpens. Sure, maybe they're the ones that could give up all these runs, but I get the feeling that the Yankees and Phillies their runs are going to come through like Aaron Judge is going to hit a home run, and then Stanton's going to hit a home run, and then like against Cortez you get Alec Boehm or Castellanos. It feels like that the runs are going to come more like that than like someone running the gamut of 9 batters in one inning, 6 runs in one inning. So I think I'm much more inclined to play the Yankees and Phillies guys as one-offs, two-mans. But I mean, they're two good offenses. I just think they'll be overowned. I'd rather play Cortez than Sanchez today. So for that fact, I would put the Phillies in the 3rd tier and the Yankees in the 2nd tier.
I would throw them both in Inglorious Bastards. I like them both today a pretty good bit.
They're both Inglorious Bastards?
For me, yeah. Look, I don't know who breaks the tie. Does Devin break the tie? How does this work? Because typically it's like a 3-man booth.
I'd stick with Inglorious. I'd stick in with Inglorious Bastards.
You also
personally.
You were just also speaking of your opinions personally in Inglorious Bastards. You had that number 1, right? You were making a case. That's your top.
Tarantino movie? Yeah, and chat's poll answers here are disappointing me. So we'll see where that ends by the end of the show.
Chat, remember Devin. You know what? You know who's in chat?
People.
People are in chat, and you know what people are? I mentioned that before.
What are you, Blender? Yeah, well, not our audience though. Not our audience.
Of course not. I didn't mean our audience. We have the most rewatchable audience.
You know what the litmus test is? If they hit the like button.
Yes. Oh, if they hit the like button, then totally.
I don't make the rules up. All right.
No Luis Robert in that White Sox lineup. They didn't trade him either, as far as I know. If there's any flop flag on that. Oh, Miguel Vargas is batting second. Is he really cheap? I think he's actually pretty interesting, and probably a good thing for his career to get traded to Chicago because he'll get some playing time. Lopez, Vargas, Vaughn, Sheets, Sosa, Benintendi, Senzel, Fletcher, and Robinson. You do have a 2K catcher for the Yankees, by the way. They were talking about that in chat. Doesn't really look very good. Carlos Navarez, almost 26 years old. He's not a prospect really. Organizational ranking, according to Fangraphs, 35th. And he's almost 26. But, he's 2K. He's a catcher. He's professionally trained to hit a baseball while swinging a stick. And, he'll have 3 chances, maybe, give or take. Maybe he gets pitch hit 4. But salary saver. It's not necessarily like him, but, it's what he can help get you. All right. So, yeah, he's not good, but he's cheap. So, doesn't mean you can't play him. Minnesota and the Mets. Pablo Lopez taking on Luis Severino. We did get a Mets lineup, right? I believe that's out. We have all these lineups, at least so far.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
The 2:00 games are probably not going to get outside of Chicago. We'll see. We got Kansas City as well. Paul DeJong is in there. The Insta Revenge game for Paul DeJong. Insta Revenge. Get excited about that.
Insta 3 strikeouts. That's what's more likely.
Well, Drew Thorpe, yeah, and that bullpen.
Have you seen Paul DeYoung? I mean, come on.
He's got 20 homers this year.
They should have a line. It'd be Paul DeYoung, Javi Baez. Let's put together an entire lineup of people that were good in 2016 that would strike out 44 times in one game. Like, come on, like that all together.
Eugenio Suarez, before last night, was having a rough season until he banged out 3. But DeYoung has like 20 homers. He's got 20 sneaky homers. Maybe it's like 18 or 19, but it's close. I might be rounding up. But, obviously there's an opportunity cost at shortstop. You can play him at third base. He's got 18 homers. Yeah, we care about home runs. He's got a 228 batting.
How many hits does he have? I bet you it's like 20. Like he has 18 home runs, 20 total hits, and whatever amount of bats, and he's batting like 168 or something.
Well, do you remember that stat? It was Joey Gallo for a while had more home runs than singles, which is just amazing. DeYoung has 77 hits this season, 14 doubles, 18 homers. It's like he doesn't get a lot, but not all hits are created equal. And I don't want the guys that hit singles. Good for Xavier Edwards and his singles. I don't want singles. I want homers. Doubles are cool too, and triples. Those are hard to predict. Those are fun. At any event, we'll jump back to Minnesota taking on the Mets. Luis Severino, Pablo Lopez, 8.5 total. Basically a coin toss here, according to Vegas. Slightly to Minnesota because Lopez is better than Severino. Where do you have the old Metropolitans and the Twins?
I just think these teams are like they're fine. I just think that the stacks are too expensive. Like I'd rather play other teams. I'd rather play Lopez than the Mets. And I mean, I'm not high on Severino, but if you needed a cheaper pitcher, Severino's okay. I mean, I put them both, right on the 4th tier. Like, you're not crazy for playing them, but it's just you're more. I mean, if you're going to pay that price, you might as well play the Orioles, the Royals, the Yankees, the Phillies. I mean, like better teams in better spots and higher projections. So, are you crazy for playing the Mets and the Twins today? No, but I'm not. So that's typically what the 4th tier means. Yeah,
that's if you would have put them in the middle, I wouldn't argue with you. But they're not priorities. They're fine. If the Mets put up 10 runs, will we shocked? No. I guess Minnesota probably the better chance because Severino more vulnerable than Lopez. Several people in chat are saying why not from dusk till dawn. Well, for starters, not as good as Pulp Fiction, not as good as Inglourious Basterds, not as good as Django, not as good as Reservoir Dogs or Jackie Brown. Oh, I can keep going, or Kill Bill. Okay, that's for starters.
I've seen Jackie Brown. I've seen that.
Okay, did you like that one?
It's not rewatchable.
Not really. It is rewatchable.
I've never seen any of these movies more than once, so I mean, then none of them are.
Is there a movie you've seen like 3 times?
Oh, I've seen Rounders at least 400 times.
Oh well, okay, but amazing movie. But maybe knock off 100 and just see a couple other movies.
I've seen Mel Brooks movies. Spaceballs. I've probably watched 10 times.
You see, they're making a Spaceballs too. Finally, it's happening. Apparently, it's going to happen like 90 years later. Yeah, they're either in production or they're talking about it. Spaceballs 2 is apparently they even talked about it in the movie, the sequel, but apparently it might happen many years later. The other part about From Dusk Till Dawn, Tarantino didn't direct it. That was Robert Rodriguez. He didn't direct the movie. So yeah, it's not even eligible. So multiple reasons why it should not be on the board, despite how much you like George Clooney and Salma Hayek and all that kind of stuff. But and again, not besmirching. It's just the competition is too strong. Kansas City, Chicago, Drew Thorpe, Brady Singer. Kansas City is I think the second biggest total on the board at 5.25. Again, locked in for 9 against Thorpe and this terrible White Sox bullpen. Good ballpark that baseball's in as well. Good hitting environment also. I believe it's in the mid 80s. 85. Slight bump here according to Weather Edge with wind blowing out to left field at about 8 miles per hour. 7% bump at homers over 141 game sample size and a bump in runs at 4%. Where do you have KC and Chicago?
I mean, KC has to be a top tier stack of the day. One of the highest run totals on the slate. I mean, the Orioles one will come down maybe a little, but I mean, over 5 is good enough for me. Guys like MJ Melendez, you got it, and it's cheap. I mean, you're getting decent people that are cheap enough. So I mean, you could play Bobby Witt, who's expensive, but like Hunter Renfroe, MJ Melendez, Paul DeYoung,
Revenge. It's the revenge.
Right. Freddie Fermin at 3,200 or whatever. I mean, you're facing Drew Thorpe. You could play anyone. So like, I'm fine with even the bottom of the order for the Royals. So the Royals are a top team, and the White Sox, like, they're cheap. I mean, that's like saying that one of the Tarantino movies is a Tuesday matinee. Oh, it's cheap. Why don't you go? It's cheap, right? But I've never seen it. But Dean says it's a good movie. Like, I don't know. Should I be trusting Dean? Dean's a person. We don't know people are stupid.
No, but I mean, there's some things you can trust me on, some things you can't. This you can trust me on.
Okay, well, I'm putting the White Sox on the 4th tier. Can you trust me on that?
Yeah, I like Vargas at 3K, by the way. Again, it's so easy to get double barrel as far as pitchers because there's a lot of usable players that are like 3K. Vargas is one of my favorites. By the way, you mentioned Baltimore. Did you not put Baltimore on the board? They should be in Pulp Fiction. How did they sneak off the board? Did they walk away?
No, we didn't even get to that game. The Blue Jays and the Orioles. You skipped over it.
Didn't we talk? I thought we talked about Toronto. We talked about them.
This is why I don't trust your recommendations. You don't even know what just happened 5 minutes ago.
There's some things you can trust me on.
You're listening to a show called The Rewatchables. I think you've seen these movies multiple times, and you're using the podcast just to remember. Like, oh, that happened in the movie. That's why you're listening to
wait, they were dancing and they won a trophy? All right, so yeah, let's knock out Toronto and Baltimore. We talked about them. I guess we didn't talk. We talked about them passing earlier in the show, but I guess we didn't talk about them as far as the board. Paulo Espino versus Grayson Rodriguez, 5.5 total for Baltimore. Baltimore looks like the best team on the board. Weather's good there as well. Fire emoji, it's in the 90s. Bumping homers, not a massive bumps, 55 game sample, but Kowser is leading off. Well, we mentioned Jackson Holiday as a cheapie, also batting in the 8-hole. There is no Adley Rutschman, just makes the stack cheaper. Where do you have Toronto and Baltimore?
I think Baltimore is a top stack, right? I mean, I think more people play the Royals than the Orioles. So if you had a choice between the two, I mean, I think they're both. I mean, they're both over 5 implied run total.
I don't think that's true, by the way. I think Baltimore's more popular. What do our projections say?
I don't care what the projections say. I think the Royals are going to be more popular.
I disagree with you.
Okay. Last time you disagreed with me, the Guardians scored 0 runs last week.
What was a sample size of 1?
Yeah, that's all that matters, right? You should go back to last. You should go to last week and watch that Guardians game. I feel it's very rewatchable.
Definitely not going to rewatch the baseball game. Yeah, we got Baltimore. Baltimore and KC makes sense to be up top. Those are the two teams, and there are more games, but I imagine nobody else creeps up and hangs out with the Gimp there in Pulp Fiction. Yeah, Toronto you threw in the middle with Django.
Well, Toronto's
a little
cheap.
high.
I mean, I guess Toronto is in the 4th tier. I mean, it's not a team that I would play, but I don't think you're nuts for playing them because I mean, outside of Springer and Guerrero, no one's expensive. But I mean, I'm not playing Brian Servin today, or I mean,
Addison Barger,
or any of these fake people. These aren't real people, right? Like by the time we've gotten to the point in the season where I look at the bottoms of lineups and I go, I'm not convinced that these people aren't just holograms and they're like pulling one over, fast one. You throw on ESPN and it's robots. It's not. They're gonna have robot players before they have robot umps. So the robots are gonna be and gonna be swinging at pitches that they shouldn't be swinging at. But
remember that was that a Hugh Jackman movie? It was like robot boxing. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
I wouldn't call that a
he was in the controller suit. Oh, we need to rank those types of movies, right? What genre of movie is that?
I don't know, but somebody in chat's gonna let us know. I think it was Hugh Jackman, I believe. And I feel like it got dark at the end too, if I remember
right.
Correctly.
He had a kid, like his son or whatever, like that, and then he was controlling the fighters in the suits or whatever. I have no idea.
We have looks like we have 2 games left here, Blender. No lineup just yet for Atlanta, or no lineup just yet for Milwaukee. 7.5 total. pitchers duel
No,
expected
Atlanta,
on
we have a
layaway.
lineup, Dean, we got a lineup for Atlanta.
Real Steel. There it is, Mr. Gerg.
So Soler is going to lead off today.
Ooh, there we go. That's interesting. All right. Yeah. The Soler, Riley, Ozuna, Olsen, Darno, Rosario, Arcia, Kelnick, and Merrifield, who's terrible. Oh, Soler's kind of interesting. He's in the player pool, I assume.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Well, they just traded for him. He's 4-5. Okay. That's that's an interesting little wrinkle here for Atlanta. Talking about the Braves and Milwaukee.
I don't think it matters that much for a stack wise. I mean, it's just the difference between Kelenic and Soler kind of. I mean, Soler just gets a bump up in projection and Kelenic gets a downgrade. But I'm not all that thrilled about playing any bats in this. I mean, it's Sale versus Peralta. Both teams have under a 4 implied run total. But both these teams are going to be, owned to some extent. But the pitchers, I mean, are going to be owned. I don't mind putting them not on the bottom tier. I mean, truthfully, the Brewers and the Braves in the bat project better than the Blue Jays, the White Sox, and the Marlins. So I mean, theoretically, they could even be in the middle tier. I don't know who's playing the Brewers today against Chris Sale, because I think more people are playing Chris Sale. I think for just leverage purposes, yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb. I think we should put both of them in the middle tier, right? Because it's not like I mean,
I like Atlanta more than Milwaukee.
Peralta isn't like the bastion of a great pitcher. He can give up home runs, and Chris Sale implodes every once in a while. I mean, these aren't teams that I'm looking to necessarily. I mean, I'm not playing them. Yeah.
A note from Dave Potts' article today. Blender, you mentioned Sale imploding every once in a while. This is off the dome, but I'm fairly certain it's correct. And last 15 starts for Chris Sale, only one time he's given up more than 2 runs. So if you're banking on Chris Sale imploding, that is the extreme outlier. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball all season long.
I agree.
So, yeah. Peralta, he's had some issues for sure. And also, the walks have been a concern. Fly balls, a few too many fly balls. The homers, 1.26. It's not like nothing. 8.9% walks in the season, but if you look at the old game log, 5 walks last time versus Miami. He was terrible against the Marlins. He was good against Minnesota, but he was terrible against Washington, terrible against the Dodgers. He's been scuffling of late. And again, 2 walks, 5 walks, 3 walks, 0 walks versus Washington. But he's had some control issues of late. There you go. Devin just went ahead and pulled that up and threw it up on the screen. Yeah, last 15 starts, only allowed more than 2 runs one time. There you go. So, look at that. I have a reading retention, apparently. I do remember reading that earlier in the day. Blender, one more game. We have crunch time coming on in about depending on when they assemble, about 5 minutes, give or take. I believe it's Derek Carty, CEO of the Bats and the Blitz, and Squirrelpatrol as well. Of course, you get cheap in around just Kevin Roth. Didn't think there's anything that's dicey weather-wise. I don't think anything's changed. Giving it a refresh. Yeah, yellow-green in Philly, yellow-green for the Mets. Straight yellow in Baltimore. Roth will touch on this when he comes on here, but nothing really of concern right now. Last game, Blender. Hit the like button so Blender can give you his homer calls, too, because Blender...
Oh, yeah, I got to get those
It's not that he has to get... It's not that you go and look like, who's projected the most likely homer today?
No, I get based on betting lines. No, it's not. It's bets. It's prop. It's not. It's not Aaron Judge. All right. I mean, you could say that any day, right? Most likely to hit a home run.
Texas, St. Louis rookie Michael McGreevy versus Andrew Heaney. McGreevy, not really a prospect. If you're looking at their prospects list in St. Louis, on Fangraphs, like 20-ish or so in the organization. Not impressed. Again, they talked about wanting to give a 6-man rotation, give everybody kind of an extra day there for St. Louis. Where do you have Texas and the Cardinals?
I like this game. I think this game goes overlooked. I think the lineups will come out later, which typically decreases the ownership. I don't mind attacking Heaney, especially with righties. So you got other than Donovan and Newt Barr, you got Arenado, you got Goldie, you got Pham, you got Contreras, Mason Wynn, even. So I like both these teams. I'm not scared of Michael McGreevy.
No.
The Rangers are decently priced. There's no cheapie in there. I would put the Rangers in the top tier. Rangers in the top tier, the Cardinals in the second tier.
Okay.
But I mean, it depends on who you think is going to be more owned. And I think that the Cardinals are going to be higher owned than the Rangers, which means that the Rangers move up due to leverage. But I think both.
I don't think either team you're concerned with ownership, right? I don't think Texas and St. Louis are.
I actually think both these teams go under owned in comparison to the Royals and the Orioles. And then people will be playing like the Blue Jays and the White Sox as like really cheap stuff. And this is like right in the middle. Where there's like no cheapy, like stupid cheap people where you can build a whole stack, but like the average stack price is still enough where like you could still play like a Sale Bradley lineup with either of these two teams. You'd have to play like Tavares over like Wyatt Langford or something, or Adolis Garcia, and you'd have to play like Pedro Pajes, cheap cat. Today seems like the type of day where you shouldn't be paying like more than $3,000 for your catcher, and just like play whoever's the catcher in your stack. Just play because you just look around here's the Marlins: Ollie Sanchez, Alex Jackson, Brian Serven, James McCann. Carlos Narvaez, Garrett Stubbs, Ryan Jeffers, Francisco Alvarez, Freddie Fermin, Chucky Robinson.
It's a real person. I had to double check that one. He's real.
Gary Sanchez, Jonah Heim. Yeah, Pedro Pajes. Like, catcher is
there's Sal Perez and there's the brothers Contreras. Those are like the best catching, best hitters.
Right.
William is facing Atlanta. Obviously Chris Sale, one of the best pitchers in the bump. Wilson taking on Heaney. Heaney is certainly vulnerable, and I think righty power versus Andrew Heaney certainly plays. We're not certain there in the lineup, to be clear. Day game after night game, sometimes they don't. Catchers don't go. Sometimes they throw them at DH. Stay tuned on that, but it doesn't seem like catcher is as strong as it typically is. There's a lot of bad, gross punts out there. Alex Jackson, you mentioned Sanchez, Serven, Stubbs, and again, these guys might get pinch hit later if situation calls for it. Real Muto is certainly available if necessary in the ninth. Straight 2K hitter for New York, Carlos Narvaez. It's not great. So tell me some of your bets, Splendor. What do you have as far as bets or homers or?
Are you about the home run? Let's go through some of the okay.
Did you beat Carty as far as? Did you wake up before Carty today? That's the most important thing you always talk about.
I went to sleep before Carty, so I did that, right? So not as much I would normally have. So let's see. We're looking just at home runs. I'll just pull this directly from the bat. Let's see home runs right now. You got Jake Berger, your man Jake Berger, plus 525.
I was going to guess it's got to be at least 5-1. Yeah.
Yeah, 525. Let's see what else we got here. We got a ton in the Baltimore and let's see.
They're facing Toronto.
Yeah, we got a lot of them. I don't want to give them all out. It seems like
give out the winners. How about just pick the winners out?
Winners? You just bet them all, and you end up with a 10% profit. Who cares?
That's really sexy.
Right. But anyway, if that I'm literally looking at the home run list.
Yeah.
If you take half the batters in like the Blue Jays Orioles game, you're probably gonna have a home run. Okay, I'm exaggerating. I think it's like 6 guys. Right. So Santander, Mullins, Varsho, Henderson, Mountcastle, Vlad, even James McCann plus 800 on FanDuel, Loperfido plus 870 on FanDuel, and all these other guys.
I would take that before McCann.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that this is. I'm relaying bad information.
Yeah.
Right. That's bat, not bad info. It sounded like I said.
I got you.
Relaying bad information. No, just bat information. Ryan Jeffers plus 675 at BetMGM for the
Don't
Twins.
hate that.
Right. Okay. Let's go to Braves Brewers. We got a bunch of these. The lineups just came in, so I'm gonna wait for projections to update. But I think the best on the board, the highest edge, Austin Riley plus 425. BetMGM. Most of these are BetMGM because BetMGM puts up their numbers and then just like dies. Like whoever's in charge just says, "Those are the numbers. I'm going home."
Baby him?
Right? They just got like he's one of those type of people that just shows up for work, does the bare minimum effort, and then just skedaddles for like goes on a 3-17 martini lunch, and you know those lines don't move. So,
by the way,
the problem is that you take advantage of it, and next thing you know. The only thing you could bet on in BetMGM is a martini.
Don't take advantage of it too much. Is the you got to find the perfect amount of taking advantage of it. It's a fine line, I suppose. Otherwise, you're going to get limited. Also, line shop. You use the scores and odds tool. That is very, very useful. Unfortunately for me, I can't do that because I'm in a state that has monopoly, just one book. But you yourself, you have what 5 or 6, give or take, 6. In Kentucky. 6,
Fanatics doesn't technically count. It's 6, but Fanatics is not a real sports book.
All right. Crunch time should be coming in shortly. I wonder if producer Devin is lurking, if he had a thought. I know he's always running the Sims. He always has a takeaway as far as the slate. Maybe he doesn't. Devin, you got anything? Anything you want to chime in? Your assessment of the slate? What are you saying?
I did just look at the latest run on SimLabs, and it does have Brady Singer as a positive leverage against the White Sox. So that does make me kind of lower my interest a little bit. But it's funny, whenever I see these tools really high on one side of a matchup, it almost makes me into both sides of the matchup, right? So if Singer is projecting well here, or is showing as positive ownership here for the SimLabs tool, I'm also still going to be interested in having, say, some mini stacks of the White Sox in case Singer it becomes popular, or whatever circumstances that SimLabs is taking into effect here aren't working. So I'll probably try to go a little over the field on both. And I was mentioning this in chat, that Philly New York game, it's not the highest projected ownership currently, and that weather spot looks juicy. So I'll probably be a little bit high on that game.
The weather can't hit baseballs though, Devin. The weather can't.
Yeah, but you know who can? Aaron Judge and Bryce Harper.
Yeah, but Cortez and Sanchez can pitch. I looked at that and go, these aren't bad pitchers.
Have you seen Jazz's splits with the Yankees? They're ridiculous.
What, one game?
Well, you called one thing right last week and you were citing it because it worked out for you. And now when it doesn't work out for you, you can't cite it?
Yes, I'm a hypocrite. Yes.
Oh, yeah, you are a big hypocrite.
Jeffrey in chat was wondering, how are the Cardinals against lefty pitchers? We'll just take this as a moment to do a little explanation here on the Plate IQ tool. If you go to St. Louis, you can see here versus lefties. There's some batters with some pretty good WOBA ISO numbers, but it overall isn't a spectacular lineup.
Interesting to see Goldie at a 120 ISO. Historically, like whenever we saw Goldie versus a lefty, we would just jump out of our chair to play him. And
Carty's I see Carty in backstage. I believe, as we've been talking about for the past 20 minutes on how much of a lefty matcher Paul Goldschmidt is, right? Carty hasn't been listening to the show. I mean, it's been mostly talking about that, right?
At least we spent like 30, and the other 5 minutes were spent on, I think, James McCann, his nose and his ability to mash lefties.
Classic lefty masher, right? Lefty masher, obviously a classic Tarantino film as well.
Is it rewatchable though?
It sounds like a Tarantino film. If there was a film called Lefty Masher, you would think that Quentin Tarantino directed that, right?
I'd watch it for sure. Like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I can't promise I would ever watch it, but I would give it a whirl for sure. You said Carty is hanging out backstage. I still don't have backstage privileges. I don't have to talk to for that. But so yeah, I don't know who's lurking backstage. Has everybody have the Avengers all assembled here?
Not quite. We're missing one member of the team here, so we can vamp a little bit more.
Backstage access, Dean. I mean, like if this was
I don't know,
like, plebeian over here.
In a dressing room, you just have to hang out in the crowd or by the bar or something like that.
we just leave Dean in the back alley behind the studio.
All right. Is there Bunner? You're making what 2-3 lineups today? Not a lot. I'm assuming just a couple.
Yeah.
Have you figured out essentially what you're rolling with? Or are you still kind of piecing together?
Look at the tiers list. I mean, I'm going to be playing Sale, Bradley, Peralta, Lopez, some combination of those two of those 4. Then I like the Rangers Cardinals game. I'm sticking with I'm probably play a Ranger stack, a Cardinal stack, Royals or an Orioles stack, and maybe I fill in a one-off of like a Yankee or a Philly or something like that. I don't mind using like maybe a Blue Jay. I want to spend down a catcher. So it's like, to me, if Sal Perez like doesn't like hit a home run or Contreras doesn't do anything, I don't think the catcher's position is going to matter. I want to spend as little as possible because you're not competing against anyone. You're competing against mostly creative players, like people that that are holograms that are somehow in the league. So I don't mind paying up in one outfield spot for Aaron Judge or something like that. So those are the kind of the constructions. And same for the one-off Brave and the one-off Brewer. I mean, you could say what you want about, Sale and Peralta, but it doesn't mean that's a clean game. There could be a home run there, and I don't think any of those batters are really going to be owned.
Blender, I hear you say one-off, but you can't do those in 5-3 builds.
That's right.
You don't have to make a 5-3 build.
He's a hypocrite.
You don't have to make a 5-3 build. You don't have to.
I was told that like the MME police would come after me if I if I didn't make every single lineup
the MME police team have better things to do. You know how much crap is going on in GPPs? How many bad lineups there are? NFL is coming up. The MME police is training for NFL because the Millie Maker, that takes up most of their time because you look through there, 20% of the lineups are God knows what. So they're in special training for NFL. They have better stuff to do than police. Oh, well, the 5-3 versus 5-2-1. It's like that's something for the trainees who are out on the street, which obviously the budget's not. There's not enough of the MME police, obviously, because everyone wanted to defund the MME police. All the people that hate the sharp players.
Speaking of NFL, by the way, Eric in chat says, "Isn't there an NFL game on today?" I'm fairly certain, Devin. I believe you can confirm this. There is. I mean, there is an NFL game. I'm doing air quotes if you're not watching. I mean, they're going to be playing football theoretically, but not really. The Hall of Fame game. I believe there's a free article out there for the people. If not, Kyle Murray. I was glancing at it last night. I don't know if I'm going to be in the streets, but I will be in the preseason streets for sure. One of the edges that are still alive. If we can go ahead and drop that in chat for the people. Roth is saying that game is tomorrow. Is that game? Oh yeah, it might be tomorrow.
Yeah, I didn't think it was
Eric
today.
is throwing me off. It's happening either today or tomorrow, but there is an article out there. Either way, read that at your own leisure. With that, let's seamlessly segue. Kevin Roth, Squirrelpatrol, Derek Carty. It's crunch time. Roth knew that right. Somebody was asking about weather. Roth, I'm assuming you're not excited about the Hall of Fame game, right? Somebody hit you up and said, "What's going on weather-wise?" And
it just always weirds me out how much earlier it is than the other games. So it always like kind of catches me off guard a little. So I just happen to know.
The total's like 30.5. Maybe it's 31.5. Like they don't really play anybody either. Like, if they do play, it's like maybe a series or two or something like that. But will you be watching? Are you that much craving football? Will you guys be watching the Hall of Fame game?
I mean, I'm a Texans fan. I live in Houston, but no, no, I don't think so.
Oh, is that who's playing? I think it's. Is it Chicago?
Texans Bears. Yeah.
I think it's Bears in Houston.
Yeah.
Carty, that was a hard no. I saw you shaking your head no. Yeah, we're not watching that game, right?
Yeah, 0% chance.
Squirrel, do we care?
We'll see. If I end up doing DFS for it, then I'll probably watch it.
Speaking of, can we give a shout out to like Jamino and the projections team? They grind so hard trying to get these like preseason lineups figured out. It's insane. The Slack chat, Dean, I'm in it. It never stops. They're just talking about rumors and minutes per. It's insane. So kudos to the team who's getting those together, man. That is a ton of work.
Yeah, I tried to do that one year, and it's like it is a nightmare.
Yeah, I have no idea how they're able to figure that out, but man, they're working hard on it for sure.
The Discord is really, really useful, like because information is sprinkling on through, and it's not spectacular for preseason, but you got a bunch of eyeballs on Twitter looking at the beat writers, and because people will start a bunch of players that are just wearing human clothes and not wearing football uniforms because they don't know that their players are not playing, and that's why the edge is pretty awesome in preseason. All right, Blender, we got anything else before we step aside and get out of here? Our board today was Tarantino movies. I don't know if anybody's a hard take on Tarantino movies. Best, worst, throw it out there by all means. And to be fair, I made this board before the show, and it's a fluid board because they're all good, different degrees of good. And if you want to tell me that like Kill Bill should be on there, sure. Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Bastards, Django, Reservoir Dogs, spectacular movie. The worst, is Death Proof. I think we all mostly can agree on that. Anybody have an opinion they want to throw
Never
out there?
saw Death Proof, but it's a
I don't
great
think I've
movie
ever seen it.
otherwise. So yeah, I give it a thumbs up.
Has anyone here seen any of these movies more than once?
Yes, all of them.
Okay,
except
so
Death Proof.
Dean, we've come to closure. These are all rewatchable movies.
Roth's my guy.
They're fine for your podcast. There you go. Okay.
All right. Blender's too busy either watching wrestling or watching Rounders for the 400th time. That's the only thing he's got time for. All right. Myself and Blender, we're going to get out of here. We'll be back later on. Well, don't go anywhere, but I'll be back later for the, I think it's a 5-game slate. 5 o'clock, I want to say, is the start time. Hey, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know officially what time we go on. It is crunch time now. It's Kevin Roth, Squirrelpatrol, Derek Carty. Roth, take it away.
Let's do it. Welcome to it, ladies and gents. You know the drill. Crunch time. Two of the sharpest minds in the biz. I'm going to walk you through the slate. We're going to take some questions, talk some pitchers, talk some hitters, talk some weather as well. We got Derek Carty, the creator, inventor, and CEO of the Bat and the Bat X Enterprise. What up, Carty? How are you?
Doing pretty well. Nice to have a little day slate today.
Yeah, you like this slate? You like what we've got going on here?
I like the fact that we have it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a decent enough slate.
Okay, well, we will work our way through it. Get some plays here, especially optimal cash plays that the Bat suggests, but we'll talk tournaments as well. And when you talk tournaments, you gotta bring up this guy's name. We got Squirrel in the house. What up, man? How are you?
Yeah, good little early slate here, and got some weather impacts. I think some pretty big weather edge numbers.
Yes. Okay. There's not a whole lot of rain impacts, but as far as the heat goes, the hitting is outrageous. Really, all the East Coast games, it's hot, it's humid, winds are blowing out. I love all the East Coast games weather-wise, so I approve. And then we do have to talk about the potential for rain in one game, and I bet you want a pitcher here, Carty. What do you think about pitchers in New York?
Trying to think, New York.
Minnesota and Mets.
Yeah, Pablo Lopez is obviously a guy that we're going to care about. Severino's viable, I guess. I don't think you have to get a pitcher in New York. I'll say that.
Okay. I don't think you have to fade pitcher in New York. So we're kind of on the same lines. It is, of all of the spots, like all of these East Coast games, you could see a pop-up cause a delay. Of all of those spots, and when I say all the East Coast games, I mean Boston, Philly, Baltimore, and New York. And I realize some of those probably aren't on this slate. Like, I don't think Boston's on this slate. But regardless of those games, I think New York is the one that would be most likely to get the random pop-up. But even then, I don't think you fade pitchers for it unless you just want to be super safe, in which case, if it's 50-50 for you, it's a toss-up between a guy there and a guy in another game. Pick the one in the other game so you don't have that delay risk. Bats are fine in all spots. So that's pretty much it for me. And with that, I think we dive into these pitchers. Carty, you can lead us off.
Sure. So we actually, for kind of an abbreviated slate, we have some pretty good pitching options on it. Taj Bradley, I think, is going to be our top guy. He's kind of been really sneaky good. I don't know even sneaky anymore necessarily, but he's facing Miami as well. He's reasonably priced. He's a guy that I think you're making a priority to get. You also have a couple of more renowned aces in Chris Sale and Freddie Peralta and Pablo Lopez on this slate as well. None of them are in quite as good of a matchup as Bradley. And so I think Bradley's better than all of them, but Sale is definitely good. Peralta is good. Pablo is good. And then after that, you have some other options to save some money, to be different. Guys like Brady Singer, Nestor Cortez, who's against a tough offense in Philly and will probably be low owned, but he's cheap. He's pretty good. I think he's a good way to get different in tournaments. Same can kind of be said for Luis Severino. And yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to dig too much deeper than that today.
Yeah. Okay. Squirrel, what are you doing here pitcher wise when you're trying to take down a GPP?
So I think I have a deeper than that, which is Rodri Munoz facing Tampa Bay. I don't have really anything good to say about him. but he's 6,000 and he's facing Tampa Bay. In Tampa Bay, it's a great pitcher's park, and the offense has kind of been gutted a little bit. They don't have like Randy Arena anymore. I think he's a pitcher that you can spend down on, then spend up on your bats, or maybe spend. Well, I guess you're just spending up on the bats, and then and hope that he puts up a good enough score that you're probably pairing him with another top pitcher, probably Taj Bradley, maybe Freddie Peralta, maybe Chris Sale, and you're just hoping Munoz puts up enough of a score, kind of beat the two that you don't pick in your lineup, if that makes sense. I think he's playable on FanDuel, but he's much more reasonable as like an SP2 on DraftKings.
Okay, and is that your whole pool? Just those 4 dudes? You meant the 3 at the top, and then Munoz, or no? You've got other guys.
No, I do think it's pretty concentrated amongst those 4. I think you could play like Brady Singer. I think you can play like Nestor Cortez, Luis Severino, but I won't be playing huge portions of those guys. I think it pretty much is Chris Sale, Taj Bradley, and Freddie Peralta. Maybe some Pablo Lopez and Brady Singer. But like Roderick Munoz is maybe the guy that you want to use to get a little bit different, to spend down on. They can still have a reasonable game, and let you like afford some expensive bats.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Let's flip it and let's talk about some of those bats and some of the stacks. I love the hitting weather on the East Coast, but I have no idea if those are good hitting spots. So Squirrel, talk me through what you like.
Sure. So yeah, I do think one of the games that was really popping off on Weather Edge was in Philadelphia. And I'm in the kind of DC area, so I'm maybe getting some of that mid-Atlantic weather. It is muggy out.
Yeah.
That is good for the ball flying a long way.
Yep.
Apparently, some kind of humidity thing. Anywho, yeah, and it's 2 pretty good hitting teams, the Phillies and the Yankees. They both have guys who can hit the ball a long way, which is good when the air is like somehow thinner due to the humidity around.
Which sounds so backwards and so wrong, but it is true. The math checks out, but it's so weird.
Yes. So like my top team is probably the Phillies. It's they've got Kyle Schwarber leading off. He's lefty on lefty. I hope that causes people to like not play him, because he actually hits well against left-handers, and one of those guys can hit the ball a long way. Same thing with Bryce Harper. I think the Yankees are good, but I actually have the Yankees just a little bit behind the Royals. The Royals are facing Drew Thorpe in Chicago. He gave up like 8 runs in less than an inning last start. Royals, another team that has power and speed, so that's great for tournaments. So I think those are my top 3: are Kansas City, Philly, New York. Baltimore also very playable, but I might be like under the field if they end up being the highest owned team or one of the highest owned teams. And then if you're looking for teams that are maybe going to be a little bit lower owned, but still playable, I think like Texas and the Cardinals.
Okay, great. Carty, you got, I feel like that was just the right answer that Squirrel went through, but maybe you have different opinions.
Similar.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm as big on Philly as Squirrel is. I think they're fine, but I don't really think they're going to be super sneaky. And I don't think they're quite as good as some of the other East Coast offenses. Baltimore is the one that I like the most. I kind of think they're a tier by themselves at the top, and they project as the 3rd or 4th highest owned team today. So I really like Baltimore, but I like the Yankees. I like the Rangers and the Cardinals quite a bit too today. And then there's a handful of other teams that you can certainly make a case for. Cheap White Sox lefties, a little mini stack of them, I think is good too.
Okay, very good. Let's go around the horn, position by position. Carty started off with some catcher talk for me.
Sure. All right. Wilson Contreras is $5K and expensive. But he's assuming, I actually don't know if we have a St. Louis lineup yet, but assuming he's in the lineup, he's got the platoon advantage against Haney, who can always give up home runs. It's really hot in St. Louis today. I like Wilson Contreras quite a bit. Salvador Perez will also probably be expensive popular at the high end, going into a great homer park against pitcher in Drew Thorpe, who's really nothing special. If you need to save money, you do have noted lefty masher James McCann. He is facing a righty though, but I wouldn't let that deter you. He's 2.6K. I like Baltimore a lot today. Also on the low end, you have Pedro Pajes, I assume it's pronounced, for 2.5. Also potentially in the St. Louis lineup once we get that. Yeah, that's the catchers I like.
Okay. Squirrel, you got any other names you want to throw in there?
I'll just reiterate that I think Wilson Contreras is the best option, and I still think we get a little bit of an edge, especially in afternoon slates on like when the lineup's not out yet. So he's definitely somebody I would consider as a one-off. And then Salvi Perez, somebody I would also consider as a one-off. That's like for the most part. After that, you're maybe looking for just the guy in your stack. Like Freddie Fermin is affordable and also a Royals catcher. But he's hitting 8th. I would say maybe Gary Sanchez is a kind of a sneaky tournament play because he can hit, like he could hit a home run off the bullpen, right? Or maybe even gets a home run off Sale, gets a home run off the bullpen or something. He's really cheap and he's going to see like absolutely minimal.
Yeah. Okay, great. How about first base?
First base, let's see. I think the top option is Bryce Harper. Salvi Perez, also first base eligible on DraftKings. Vinny Pasquantino, I really like the Royals and the Phillies. If we're looking for value options, Andrew Vaughn going up against Brady Singer is probably not going to see too high of ownership, but he's pretty good for the price, as is Gavin Sheets in the same matchup.
Okay. Carty, any thoughts at first?
Ryan Mountcastle is the guy that I don't think Squirrel mentioned that I really like today. But again, I guess I'm higher on Baltimore than everyone else is. But it's it's a really bad pitcher in Espino. It's an extreme hitter's umpire. It's good weather. Mountcastle's really affordable relative to the other high-end options like Vlad, like Harper. And I think he's every bit as good on this slate. So I like Mountcastle a lot. Ryan O'Hearn, a little bit further down in price, but also in the same lineup. I think he's, firmly in play. And on FanDuel, where you don't have to play a catcher, you can definitely play Contreras or Salvador Perez here because they're both really good.
Yeah. Okay. Take me to second base.
Jordan Westberg for Baltimore, probably my favorite option here. A little expensive. You can definitely go down and save money. We have Gleyber Torres hitting leadoff for the Yankees against a lefty for 3.5 on DraftKings, 2.8 on FanDuel. I think he's a really good option. We also have Miguel Vargas now, who just got traded from the Dodgers to the White Sox. Going to be hitting second for them, probably going to be playing every day. He's 2.4K on FanDuel. And second base is kind of not the best position. So he's definitely a way you can save money. Otherwise, that's kind of what I like here.
Okay, great. Squirrel, your thoughts a second?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of guys at the top that you can consider. Michael Garcia. I think Gleyber Torres is probably the best guy for the price leading off for the Yankees. And I'll say the most fun option, I think, is Jackson Holliday. He's 3,000 and he's hitting 8th for Baltimore, but he's the most fun option on this list just because he's a top prospect.
I love it. I want to play that dude for sure. Okay. How about shortstop, Squirrel? Sorry, are we at third? Are we at third now? My bad.
Yeah,
I think
third base.
I think some good but expensive options. Like some of these guys are a little bit overpriced. Like Royce Lewis, I think is a really good option. I think Alec Boehm's a good option. On DraftKings, I don't know if I want to spend in the 5,000s for them. But if you have the money, I think other people will not necessarily want to pay 5,000 for them. So maybe they're going to see a little bit lower ownership. I like Nolan Arenado for 4,000, Michael Garcia for 4,300. Christopher Morel for 4,100. And then if you really want to go down in price, which might be a good idea at this position, Paul DeJong or even Edmundo Sosa at 3,600.
Okay, Carty, your thoughts at second. Third base. I'm
third.
gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. I'll lock it in. Third base.
Kind of similar thoughts here. Like I don't think any of the high end guys really stick out above the rest. I don't think any are going to be really high owned either. So you can kind of mix and match your Guerrero, Westberg, Royce Lewis, Jazz, Garcia. Austin Riley maybe will come in lower owned than the rest of them, and you'll get some leverage off of Peralta. So I think Riley's maybe my favorite for tournaments there. But I agree that it's a position that maybe makes sense to save money. Christopher Morel is the guy that I like the most to do it with. I don't hate noted lefty masher Nolan Arenado today. And if you need to save even more money, I agree. Paul DeJong is the guy to do it with.
Okay. How about shortstop?
High end of shortstop today is very good. Bobby Witt is probably my favorite, but Gunnar Henderson is really good too and won't be as owned. Love Baltimore today. So of course Henderson's in that mix. But you have Seager, you have Lindor. There's a lot of options at the high end, and I think those guys will probably be lower owned than Witt and Henderson will. Willie Adames, I think, is great in tournaments as a one-off. You get some leverage off a sale. He can always hit a home run. He's got the platoon advantage. Cheap stuff I don't really like too much. On DraftKings, you can do the Paul DeJong thing at shortstop as well. But really, I like the high-end options and Adames today.
Okay. Squirrel, you spending up here at short?
Yeah, I think so. For the most part, it's a good position to spend up on. Really, some of the best hitters in baseball, or shortstops.
Yeah.
It used to be like a position we were talking about, like sneaky value options. I'd pay up for the really good, for like Bobby Witt, Corey Seager, Gunnar Henderson. Paul DeJong is underpriced at 3,000. And then there's like Xavier Edwards and Nicky Lopez are at least leading off at Lopez is 2,500. Xavier Edwards is actually probably way too expensive, 3,800. But people won't be playing Nicky Lopez, so if he hits with no power. But if you end up with 2,500 at shortstop, if you're hand building, I think it's fine to take a leadoff guy. Maybe Willie Adames is the Gary Sanchez of shortstop, where he's facing Chris Sale. People want to play him, but he can hit a couple home runs, and that would probably break this slate. And he's going to see minimal ownership.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. That brings us to the outfield. Scroll, you get to lead us in there. What are we doing?
Yeah, as it is on most days, Aaron Judge is my top option. Probably not playing as much as him as I would like, just because he's very expensive. Especially on DraftKings, that makes a big difference at 6,500. But so I like Kyle Schwarber almost as much, $4,000 cheaper, and then other options like MJ Melendez is probably the best point per dollar play at only 3,100. He should probably be more expensive, especially on like facing a right-hander. Hunter Renfroe in the same boat. Giancarlo Stanton and Anthony Garcia, definitely guys can break a slate with power. If we're looking for value options other than MJ Melendez, I think Austin Hayes, very underpriced at 2,900, hitting second for the Orioles. And then maybe Weston Wilson at 3,500 for the Phillies.
Okay, great. Carty, anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, I like the Yankee stuff a little bit. Stanton in particular on FanDuel, I like his price. But really, my favorite stuff is the Baltimore stuff. Cedric Mullins, Colton Cowser in particular. I think they're both great. Miguel Vargas, I mentioned earlier on DraftKings, you can only play him in the outfield. But I think as far as cheap stuff goes, like Miguel Vargas, I agree about Austin Hayes. Tommy Pham, assuming he's in the lineup for St. Louis today, which I imagine he will be against a lefty. I think he's really good. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay. The people want some home run calls. That's what they're always asking for. And I feel like it's a slate where we're going to see them. We've seen a ton of runs scored the last couple days, probably because the weather is awesome. At least that's what I like to think. And I expect more today. So, Carty, who do you got hitting a bomb? And what does the bat say is the best bet on the slate?
Well, I can pull that up pretty easily. All right. Highest chance for a homer on the slate is not a big surprise. Aaron Judge. A little more off the board. Anthony Santander has the next best chance. And again, I think Baltimore's going to be a little overlooked today, and I don't quite understand why. Mm-hmm. In terms of betting, our best value is in a night game today. Seth Brown plus 1,200. You can get it at Bet365 or Hard Rock. He's shown the best value of the day. Okay,
tasty. I like it. Squirrel, you got a few names for me?
Sure. I'll put in Kyle Schwarber at the top end, and then in the less likely, more of a long shot, and I'll put MJ Melendez and Weston Wilson.
Okay, excellent. Let's get into a quick question. We got to hit some promos as well. DZ says, hey, can we go back over cash pitchers again? Because I'm finding it hard to get Bradley and Sale. So, Carty, what is your cash thoughts there?
My cash thoughts is get Bradley and Sale.
Yeah.
You could also do Bradley and Peralta. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
But I don't really think there's anyone else I'd be comfortable doing cash with.
Okay, that's fair. Hey, make sure you're getting ahead of the competition. We got RotoGrinders Premium. It's the best option in the biz, and whatever you want to pay, whatever level, we got something for you. 6-month combo subscription, exclusive price $469.99. That'll save you $250 as opposed to buying 6 individual months of combo premium. If you're not a fan of commitment, just 1 month of RG combo premium is $120. And if you really don't want to commit and you just want to check out the product a little bit, 3-day pass is $19.99. I went to McDonald's with my daughter this morning, and we spent over $19.99 just on the two of us, just for McDonald's. And yes, I realize I shouldn't be taking my 4-year-old to McDonald's. It was a one-off. We don't normally do it. Don't judge me as a bad parent for it. Okay, with that, let's get back into the QQs. Jumping into the Discord. That is where the cool kids hang out, but it is not currently where they have the questions. So let's see what we've got in YouTube. Markel Jones says, Squirrel, lefty twins versus Severino in play today.
Lefty twin. Oh, our lefty twins in play for Severino today.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fine.
Okay, great. I think we got Devin who says, call me crazy. I'm going to have a Thorpe lineup. Squirrel, are you going to call him crazy?
I think I'm doing 150 lineups and don't have a Thorpe lineup. But
so that's a yes.
All right.
I'll take it.
Well, hey, he's coming in at low ownership. What else do we have? FanDuel single entry. Carty, I'm coming to you. By the way, we have about 7 minutes until we hit lock. FanDuel single entry. Carty, Vinny P, Perez, or Mountcastle?
Probably Perez, but I do really like Mountcastle too.
Okay. Dean and Mochi in the chat both saying it is not very hard to get Sale and Bradley. So
yeah, it's definitely doable.
Yeah. So there's your answer there. Brandon saying Hayes is a steal today. Carty, is Hayes a steal today?
Yeah, especially on FanDuel. At his price, I think he's definitely a good play.
Great. Squirrel, cash play on FanDuel at first.
Scroll over to FanDuel. I'd probably play like Salvi Perez. Yeah, I'd probably play Salvi Perez. Or if you can afford Bryce Harper, go up to Harper. But Perez is only 3,000.
Okay. Maryi Donisi says Whataburger is greater than McDonald's. Sure, if you want fast food that takes 40 minutes, then you can go ahead and do Whataburger. But that is not how I prefer my fast food. I like it fast. DKGPP Squirrel, the Lowe brothers, perhaps the Lau brothers stack in play first and second.
If you want to, I'm not playing in front of them. I'm playing on like less than 10% of each of them, and there's no correlation other than the last name. But if that's your thing, don't let me talk you out of it.
Okay, that is not real correlation there. That's fair. Chili, I don't know if this is a real person. So Carty, you may need to help me out here. How do you feel about McGreevy in a FanDuel GP? Is McGreevy a real person? Because I love that name.
He is a real person. He's a rookie. He's making a start today.
Oh.
I think it's unnecessary. Although, I guess maybe he's 5.5K on FanDuel. Like, he is really cheap. I don't know what you're going to do with all that salary, but yeah, if you can find a way to really spend that salary on just everything good, yeah, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong to do that.
Yeah, I like it. What else do we have? Gavin Sheets to Homer. Carty, what do you think? Gavin Sheets hitting a bomb?
It looks like the bat thinks there is no value on Gavin Sheets to Homer. Implied projection of 0.13 and actual projection of 0.13.
Oh, okay. So if you're betting it, meh. Let's see. Another Carty question. This one's from Jordan. He says, DK single entry. I've got Royals mini stack with a 5-man Baltimore, but I have enough money to go Witt over Henderson. Interesting. Would you go up to Witt over Henderson and then you're blowing up your 5-man Baltimore stack?
So basically it's a 5-man Baltimore, 3-man Royals, or 4 and 4. I mean, I don't think there's a right answer. Witt, I do like in a vacuum more than Henderson. Generally, I prefer to keep the guy with the stack, but you're kind of stacking either way. I don't know. Squirrel, do you have a?
I would say go with Witt and go with the 4-4, but I agree that like there's not really a right answer.
Okay. The right answer is whichever one of them ends up hitting a home run today was the right answer, but tough to say ahead of time. Thoughts on a Marlin stack? Squirrel, you got any Marlins?
I'm sure I have some Marlins. I don't love that idea. I don't even know if I have I had one 5-man Marlin stack. So the idea is to stack against Taj Bradley because he's going to be the highest owned pitcher. But like I never like that idea because there's just a good chance that like Bradley doesn't have a great game, but neither do the Marlins. And the reason like Bradley's so highly projected is because it's in a good pitcher's park. So like the chances that like the Marlins have like an outstanding game, like you need to have the Marlins to win the tournament, it's just very low.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Jamie says, wasn't McGreevy a character in the baseball movie Little Big League? Dean says McGreevy sounds like something Roth ordered for breakfast today. I did get a couple McGreevies today. Matt says, Squirrel, O'Hearn, Seager, or Harper Volpe? It is a DK Cash question.
Well, if you can get is Harper a Judge?
It was O'Hearn, Seager, or Harper Volpe. There's no Judge involved.
Oh, Harper Volpe. I'd probably go Harper Volpe.
Okay. Let's see, Carty, any interest in an Atlanta 3-man stack?
Not a lot. I mean, you'll get some leverage off of Pearl. Actually, you know what? I don't mind it. You can play. It's fine. It's fine. You get some leverage off of Peralta. If I was going to do like a 3-man stack against a chalky pitcher, though, I'd probably do some Brewers against Sale. Like do Adames, do who else? Who else have I talked? Look their lineup real quick. Yeah, like Adames, Gary Sanchez, Rhys Hoskins, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Eric said, Brian says, DKGPP, Carty, you like Baltimore a lot. Who's your favorite lower owned Baltimore outfielder?
Let me pull up their ownership real quick. I mean, I don't think any are going to be crazy owned, but Ryan O'Hearn on DraftKings is cheap. He's 3.1K. He's first base outfield. I think he'll be lower owned than Kowser, Santander, and Mullins. And I think he's good. So, yeah, give me O'Hearn, I guess. But really, I don't think any of them are going to be crazy.
Yeah, okay. Squirrel, Ranger stack against my boy McGreevy.
Yeah, actually, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think the Rangers may be one of the most under-owned teams. No reason they can't be the top option by the end of this league.
And is this kid's first time pitching, McGruber, or no?
I believe
McGreevy. I think this is his first in the majors. Yeah.
So you never know when it's a guy's first time. Like, is he going to come out and just be awesome and throw darts, or is he going to come out and get nervous and walk a bunch of dudes and like kind of fall apart?
I'll say just anecdotally, my own experience, like watching these guys like major league debuts, a lot of times they have jitters. They really do. So
yeah, that makes sense. Their family's probably there. Yeah, it's like it's a huge moment. So stack, it could go horrible. Stack against them. What else do we have? One last question, I think, and then we're inching up seconds away from lock on FanDuel. Carty, Josh Smith and Sal Perez, or Vinny P and Bone.
What's the format here?
And we didn't say. You just said FanDuel. Josh Smith, Sal Perez, or Vinny P and Bone.
I guess Smith Perez.
Okay, not a high conviction on that one, but hey, with that, we have hit the lock. We're going to be back again. Don't you worry. We've got another show. We got another slate, another show, another weather forecast, all that. But we are going to bounce on out of here for Squirrel and for Carty and for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We will catch you later today. You have been crushed.